Hey everybody, Mike McWilliams, Upstairs to the Right Music channel. Hope everyone is doing well. Who's here tonight? We have Denrell, we've got Ben, Maddie. Good to see you guys. How's everybody doing out there? Let me make some adjustments here before we get started. See how the framing is. Yeah, that looks good. My usual mess. You guys are used to it now. Thank you so much for showing up to Upstairs to the Right Music channel. If you're watching this live, I do appreciate you taking the time to do so. Time is a valuable thing, and spending a little bit of yours with me is really appreciated. If you watch this in the rerun, also the same goes back to you. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this evening. All right, so we are moving into that time of year. It's starting to wrap up here. I was walking down the street, going up to my local hardware store, and one of the shops already had their Christmas decorations out, and that was quite something to me. Mike, I watch a lot of guitar live streams on Sunday, but yours is the one I look most forward to. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. Yeah, I look forward to it too. I think the energy is there. I think when everybody's looking forward to it, it's there. I'm gonna kind of free will it tonight, or I didn't want to say free ball it, but you guys got my meaning there. I said it anyway. Tonight on the subject, I do have a central subject as I usually do, but I just want to talk about some things that went down this week. Yeah, the Christmas decorations were out, so I was like, wow. So we are moving into that time of year. Isn't that something? But a lot of projects. Who we got here? Don Juan's in the house. Hey, welcome, welcome. Uncle Carlton here. Hey, sir. How are you? I'm so glad to hear from you. I hope you got that last message that I sent out to you. If you haven't, take a look and see that. Yeah, good to see you, Uncle Carlton. Thank you for everybody showing up. Again, like I said, taking your time to show up and listen to my rants is something that's really appreciated. Well, I have this kind of thing that usually if something bad happens, and if you're totally, it just happens to you, that usually down the road, karma will pay you back and make things all right. Everybody give it up to Uncle Carlton. He's in the house. Everybody say hello to my Uncle Carlton. A Hall of Famer gentleman, a Hall of Famer. I'm glad you're good, Uncle Carlton. A Hall of Famer, folks, is in the house. Please show your appropriate appreciation to him. Thank you so much. Frederick, nice to see you, sir. I like this time of year because it's really bad weather. Here in Amsterdam, it has been rain. I don't think we've had more than if we took all the hours of sunshine in the last 2 weeks, you could probably get about a half afternoon worth of sunshine. It's been that bad here. And Noah and the flood, like, almost. But it's cold too. It got real cold very suddenly. And this is the time of year that I like to get into projects. All the things that I say that I'm going to, because I'm not going out. It'd be insane to go out in that weather. And I started working on the second Parkcaster. And as you guys know, this Parkcaster, all the electronics of it come from that 2001 Affinity. The neck is from a 2003 Squier Affinity. And the body, I told you last week that I had put in an order for a body from China. It came. And if you're interested in seeing not the complete guitar, because it's going to be off to Fern tomorrow, Fern's my luthier, to have it finished. But I did all the wiring and all the soldering and got everything all straightened out. I leave the neck, setting the neck, and also I don't have the correct bushings for my tuners. He does, so he'll finish it up for me, which I would have him do anyway, because he's got everything he needs to make sure that it's dead on. But I got it up to snuff where he can take it over. And the body came in, and great. You know, I paid. I paid 35 euros for that body. And I'm not sure if it's Alder, you know, to be honest with you guys. I'm looking at it, and I'm holding it in my hand. I'm feeling it's really light. It's, you know, I thought my first parts caster was light. And that's me from Agathis, I think, yeah. Agatha. Agatha, sorry, Agathis is a stone. That'd be a different thing to play. And I thought that was light. But this one, wow, it is just, they say it's Alder. It could be. The stuff, you know, that's coming out of China, it's a perfect match for any Squire body. I think they had a Squire mold when they made it. And it's just great. So everything fit on it. If you'd like a preview of what that looks like, go to the community page here on this channel. I took a picture of it. I laid the neck on it so you can get an idea. So take a look at that. You can see, I'll preview it when it's done here. But give a thumbs up when you go there and take a look at that picture, and you can see how it looks laid out. And it took a lot of work. You know, I did most of the prep work, so when I handed over I did all soldering, got all holes drilled, you know, set the springs, you know, all the things you have to do to set up a Strat. And I enjoy doing that. So this is that time of year when you get into those kind of projects. And I've been talking about it, but I actually have the neck here with me. And I want to start off tonight's program talking about a couple of things when it came to getting this neck prepped and ready to go on that guitar. Again, this is a 2003 Squire Affinity neck. One of the very interesting things about these early Squire Affinity necks is it's believed that the woods that were used, you know, on the late 90s to 2005 period, a lot of that was reclaimed wood. And you know, the neck on my first Partcaster is really, really, really nice. If it's really light, it's Paulownia wood. I remember one of those guitar bodies last year wasn't great. No, it's not really super light. No, excuse me, guys. It's got a little bit of heft to it, I would say, but it's it's something there. Fern will know. Believe me, Fern is like the Inspector, you know, Clouseau. No, that's not good. He's like a good detective. Anyway, the Sherlock Holmes. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. He's the Sherlock Holmes of woods, because that's what he's, a luthier. So he'll sniff it out. I don't think it's that. It's got a little quality to it, and it's actually a really nice body. But the neck. This neck I bought used. It was just a neck. The person who sold it to me, it was completely stripped. It didn't even have the trees on it, and it had some damage here to the back. There was a good knock and a good dent in it. And he was giving it away, and the minute I saw the picture of it with that really nice rosewood with some figuring in it. Actually, there's like a bird's eye right there, if you can see that. With this neck, I said, I'll take it. I'll rework it and see what I can do. So the first thing that I did was I filled in that area that had been chipped. I filled it in with epoxy. Then I scraped it down, and then I started wet dry sanding it. To the point where you would never know that there was a dent there. You can still see it. It's not going to be magic. You can still see it, but it looks like now, if you feel and run your finger across it, it looks more like something in the wood itself. In other words, like some of these knots that you see there are naturally occurring in the wood. So that was the first thing that I did. The second thing that I did was another thing about these older, not just being reclaimed wood on these, they're unfinished necks. They're not finished at all. I do believe that still to this day that's true of the bullets, the Squire bullets and the Squire, not all the affinities, but I think a lot of them, at least the bullets for sure I know because I looked at one the other day, still has an unfinished neck on it. That from a playability standpoint is groovy. Some people want to take something like that and make whatever modifications, if they so choose, they want to. And so that's kind of a good situation to be in. It's the same with this 2003 neck. It was unfinished. So what I did is I applied a oil finish to this neck. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can go about finishing something like that. A lot of you guys are familiar with stuff like this nitrocellulose lacquer spray in terms of finishing your guitar neck and headstock and things of that nature. It's nitro. So this is what everybody wants. Will give you that shine that you like. It's got its issues with me in this climate. When you're spraying this, if it's not a very sunny, dry day, very low humidity, bubbles can form when you spray it. You can't spray it really close. You got to give it a little bit of a distance. You're not, up close on it. You're giving a little bit of distance. And those bubbles that form, you can sand those down, wet sand those down. But at the end of the day, and also the fumes from this. This is not something that you can do just casually, or you really shouldn't do it casually inside of your house. Many, a luthier, including the guy who made Slash's guitar, his Gibson copy, died from continuous inhalation of the fumes from this stuff. And I have finished a couple of necks. This can I've gone through one can, and this is my second can. It's halfway done, and just with mixed results with it. And I sought to find an alternative to that I could use that made a lot more sense, and also is a lot more easy to use, because when you use a nitro spray like that, when you're finishing a neck, you got, again, spray, wet sand, let it dry, then wet sand, then repeat that process over a couple of days. And if you have a rainy day in between, you're kind of screwed. Believe me, I've been there. And especially if you're trying to do it outside like I had to do it out on my deck. And it just was not happening. And so I looked for alternatives. And when it came to this neck, one of the things that I really like about it is I like that natural wood look to it. I didn't want to, and also the smoothness of it, because it's not sticky. It is super smooth. I guess what you would call a fast neck or a faster neck it doesn't have that stickiness to it. One of the things that people like about the new Squire CV 50s, 70s, that line, is they also say, hey, it doesn't have that usual stickiness that Squire necks have to them. And I wanted to preserve that. The minute also that you start using nitro, you got to do a lot of sand, a lot of things, and you're still going to end up with a sticky neck. Also, again, like I said, it is not without a little bit of labor to do that. So I decided to do a little something different this time. So some of the prep work I did, it no longer says affinity there. What I did was I sanded out the affinity that was there, and I put in this contour sticker, aligned it the way that it should be, centered it, and got it in there. Looks good. And then what else did I do? That was it. That was all the prep that I did, was just put that on there. And of course, fix that in the back. Then I applied this. This is linseed oil. So this is actually boiled linseed oil. Grecocte linseed. So this is boiled linseed oil. And I have to tell you that I am so glad that I started using this to do these finishes. I wish I had done it before and after. Actually, this ambering that you're seeing, and you're actually maybe in that you're catching a little bit of the different wood texture that you can see from this finish. This was very light. This was not dark at all. And one of the things that a linseed oil finish will do is it will darken your fret. I'm sorry, it'll darken your woods when you use it. I would not use this on a rosewood fretboard, though some people do because of that darkening. Use too much of this on your rosewood fretboard and it'll look like ebony. I suspect sometimes when they're saying that it's ebony, it's some kind of wood that they've treated heavily with linseed oil. It'll darken, and so that's what it did with that neck. And and because it was a unfinished neck, I didn't have to do any kind of sanding prep or anything like that, other than, like I said, fixing that dent in the back. And one application, you do just a very smooth, thin layer that you spread onto the wood all over, and you let that dry. Now, this is not linseed oil that's been actually heated up and boiled. If you're familiar with this, this is actually linseed oil that they've put polymers in it that when it gets in contact with the air, it hardens. Because linseed oil, just straight linseed oil, will not dry at all. It'll be a wet, sloppy mess for weeks and months to come. No matter how much you try to wipe it off, it'll sweat up out of the wood. So you can't really use that. But this boiled linseed oil with those additives in it, in order to make it harden, dry faster, really is the way to go. And I only put one application on. Some people will do 2 or 3 coats of it. I find that one will do it. And over time, linseed oil will start to darken as well, and you'll start to get that nice ambering that you like to get. It takes time, but we'll speed up that process. So if for those of you out there who are looking to get that ambering look to your guitar or your neck, you could do a treatment of linseed oil followed up with a beeswax finish. So you take some natural beeswax. So after a day, it took 1 day for that to dry. Now it's the linseed oil in this is actually still not dry per se. It's dry, but it's not cured, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's going to require time. But over time, as it cures, it will darken even more. And to protect that, the final step that I did was put a layer of beeswax, pure beeswax, over the entire part, not the rosewood, but just here on the maple. So all the maple parts, I did that to finish it up, and then gave it a buff with paper towels. And a paper towel, you would think that, oh, that's pretty soft, but actually it is kind of giving a little bit of a sanding to your neck when you use a paper towel, clean, dry paper towels. So working that wax into the neck and with the paper towel, and just really buffing it and buffing in. When it gets done with the linseed oil and using that beeswax as a finishing for a neck, boy, I wish that I could just pass this around the room out there, so to speak. 17 folks of you out there listening in, I wish you could feel this neck, because there's nothing like it. It is just smooth, and this will just continue to cure, and it'll amber up really nicely. And that was done in a day, So again, I like the way it turned out. Again, this was a light piece of wood. You can already see it's starting to amber up. to a very nice amber, a natural looking amber. It looks natural. So boiled linseed oil is the finish that I used on that. And and I won't be using this anymore. My days of using sellers to do finishes is over. I'm going to be doing that process from now on and on all the stuff that I work on because it's super easy. Ford Hemi says, so grateful for these shows, bros. Yeah, I'm grateful for all of you guys showing up for the show. So I thought I would share that with you to kick off tonight. That is it's a revelation to me. Using boiled linseed oil and then finishing it up with beeswax, man. It's just that neck and it plays just so nice. So much so that I'm thinking about doing the same thing. But the other one, actually, it's good to go. I'm not going to do that. But I'm glad I did it to this one. And all future work will get that. Especially next project is stripping down the body, that affinity body. When it gets down to the bare wood, that's probably the finish it's going to get. It's going to get linseed oil and beeswax. That's just a natural finish. But as been pointed out, that's not an easy thing, and that's going to take some time. So we'll get to that. So one of the other things that I did this week is I finished up my pedal board. Actually, let me get a drink here. So I can see this is in the shot here. So that's good. So this was the pedal board, was my recording pedal board. And now this is the board that I use outside the studio room, out in the living room for just playing. And one of the things that I talked about was this ABY pedal. This thing is fantastic. You can run two speakers. You can run two guitars going into one speaker. In this case, I'm running the A going to either one of my 1x12s, and the other one is feeding into the tuner here, so it's a silent tuner. One of the really surprising things is this pedal right here has made it onto my board. This pedal, this is the Little Heat pedal, Tone City, that was graciously given to me, and I got to playing it with the Strat, and I was super impressed with the way it sounded. Killer sound on the Little Heat pedal, and I appreciate getting it. It is now permanent. What I'm trying to basically do is give myself 3 flavors of distortion here. The Klon is always on as my clean boost. The Rat gives its own tone, and this Little Heat is just an awesome pedal. If you guys get a chance to find one of these out in the wild, they're not really for sale. I don't think you can get these anymore. Alberton's had it for a while. I got this as a wonderful gift. Thank you. You know who gave it to me. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. It's permanently on my pedal board, but it's a great pedal. But I want to talk about this pedal here, this Klon Centaur. Klon Centaur is probably one of the most duplicated circuits out there, really amongst pedals. And there's a lot of different variants of that. I would say that the Klon and the Blues Breaker, followed by the Tube Screamer, are probably the top 3 most copied circuits out there. And there's a reason behind that. If you get a chance to experience an original of those, gonna get to that, sir. Give me 1 second. I'm leading the. You're reading ahead. No skipping ahead. Stay on the same page, class. Get into that. A lot of copy circuits, and let's get into that. So JHS Pedals, Josh over there, and I like Josh. He has a sense of humor about things that I can appreciate. And this is another one of those situations where, he is displaying his a couple of things there: marketing it in a very wise way, and having a little bit tongue in cheek about it. And I like that. So I will support his company for that. But for $99, JHS Pedals came out with a copy of the Klon, which I have a copy of. This one, as I pointed out before, this one was made by a company in LA that's defunct called Sapphire Audio. And this was a one-for-one copy. All the circuits, all the components, everything in here is the same as they would that was used in the original Klon, except for the the mythical Germanium diode that's supposed to really make these things sing. The closest thing to that's supposed to be in here. So much so that when my pedal tech, when I gave it to him and he took a look at it, he said he gets them in all the time. He says that's the best one I've seen. So it's a good one. I'm sure for the $99 that Josh is charging for his copy of the Klon pedal, it's worth it. My Not a Klon is on its way from today. Great. I am so glad you ordered one. But, when you get it, maybe you can put it together and immediately put it up on Reverb for $5,685.33. Yes, so there is one of the, let me see if you guys are seeing that. Is that focusing? Yep, that's a Not a Klon there that somebody has put up on Reverb for $5,685.33. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys that so that you did not think that old Mike has been down to the coffee shop before he started his live. No, we do that after. Yeah. So now this is in the Netherlands. This listing, interesting enough, it's here that somebody put that up, and the Dutch have a dry sense of humor. So I think that this person is just trying to draw. Yes, they're readily available for $99. They're not on back order, nothing like that. So you gotta say to yourself that this is an example of somebody having a little tongue-in-cheek humor, I hope, too, as well. I'll go on the record as thinking that it's something humorous, not somebody being serious. However, I do want to point out that, what is a rose but a rose by any other name? A rose is still a rose by any other name. Kind of thing here is where I'm getting to tonight. Because, Josh and the Bad Monkey, we all know the Bad Monkey fiasco. And I think that this is why this guy he says, I'm going to be the first one to put mine up. Like the Bad Monkey. I guess that's what that's about. But, the Bad Monkey situation where there was a pedal that had been around for decades. And until he pointed out, hey, this sounds just like this. If you switch between these two, the Klon and the Bad Monkey, they sound essentially the same. Well, I'm going to say that with EQ and just about any decent pedal that has that Klon circuit in it or something based on it, you're pretty much well going to get there with it. I think that the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 Klons out there, the real deal out there on the market, are really just symptomatic of how crazy musicians will get chasing tone. And there were Monday Klons and there were Friday Klons. It's no different than anything else, because it was Bill Flanagan who was building those by himself, and he had his good days and he had his bad days, and he had those days where he put his foot in it and the days where he put his foot in him. And so, you see the comparison videos out there. Well, a Klon versus this, or I've got a Klon, I'm going to put it up against this, and then I've got a Klon, I'm going to put it. Well, if you took those two clones and you put them against each other, they would sound different. Only just because of entropy. Fifth law of thermodynamics, entropy. It means that there's going to be just naturally in the production line, there's going to be things that are going to cause those two units to be different. It's like snowflakes. In a way, it's entropy. Especially in production, you'll find that. So, like Josh said, it's simple electronics that existed since the 1950s. That's why I like them too. And that's what I'm saying here in this drawn out way. The same thing is that if you work with this client, even though I've been told by a very knowledgeable guy, this guy is like, I got a great luthier and I've got a great electrician. I got to tell you, that's one of the things that I did get moving here. Some very wise, knowledgeable guys. And when he tells me that it's good, it's good. But I never once ever thought to myself, once I got this Klon, hey, I really wish that I had the real thing. I had the first issue of the Blues Breaker, as you guys know. I had a Blues Breaker for a while. And I compared it with several different Blues Breaker circuits, pedals, mini pedals, full-size ones. Some were very close, some were right on, close enough. I always say 95%. And some of them were complete garbage. But that was my Blues Breaker. Now, if I took two Blues Breakers and then I put it against those pedals, well, maybe it would be a different outcome. You understand? Because even in themselves, those Blues Breakers aren't the same. So I never ever thought, knowing this in the back of my mind, I never thought to myself, well, boy, gee, I wish I had the real deal Klon. No, I said, what is that circuit? Let me find a place. I was in Singapore, and this is coming up on 5 years ago now. I've had this, maybe 6, and I was sitting there in my studio, and I used a Wampler Thomas Wampler Thomas is a great circuit. There's a great circuit. You got one of those, you got one of these, you got one of these, you got one of those. And I played that one. That's one of the ones that I thought was 95% there. It's close enough, good enough. I consider this one to be 95% there. I'll always give it to the original that there's got to be something there, but each and every one of those, as I'm pointing out, are different. So I never thought to myself, I need to have the original. I got a place in LA that said, hey, we're building these. I had done business with them before. I bought a couple of pedals from them that they had new old stock of. And I knew these guys knew their stuff. I actually visited them. They had their shop over on Venice Boulevard out in Santa Monica. And I went in their shop, and it was a legit, serious electronics shop, and they knew their things, and they had just every kind of circuit you could think of, and they were building these, and I put in an order for one, and I got it. And they went out of business, unfortunately, because I put in an order for another one again. They're just that good, just to have a spare of it. But I'm glad I got the one that I did, and I never, ever, 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 ever thought to myself that, gee, I wish I had a real Klon. You see, comparison is a thief to satisfaction. See how I brought the title in there? See how I did that? So that's the title of tonight's show that I've been leading up to. Comparison is a thief to satisfaction. Enjoy. Now that is a saying that's been attributed to President Theodore Roosevelt. Whether or not he really is the one who originally said it is up for debate. But the sentiment behind it is one that is so eloquent that I was reminded of that quote the other day from a gentleman on another channel called The Lifeboat. Completely unrelated subject, but a great guy, Tommy, over The Lifeboat said it. And I got into him because of the Danny Masterson situation, and that's a whole other thing. But following that with interest, because I'm a That 70s Show fan. I used to love that show. And I'm just amazed at how that's just turned into a complete cluster F. But anyway, I digress. But I heard him say that, and I said, "Hey, Tommy, I really like that. I've been saying that in 6 different ways a Sunday, and you presented it. You reminded me of that quote, and put it, succinctly. So that's what tonight's title is: Comparison of the Thief to Satisfaction. Because I'm satisfied with my clone. I'm not making comparisons, and we always talk about, is a Gibson, is an Epiphone as good enough as a Gibson? Is a Squire good enough as a Fender? Well, maybe it's not as good enough as a Fender America, but maybe it's as good as a Made in Mexico. You start parsing things when you're comparing, and you do it when you're on Facebook or when you're on any kind of social media. Uh, I'm on vacation, and look at my perfect family, look at my perfect vacation, look where we're at. We're having tea in Atlantis with Aquaman. And then you get into comparisons, and what you did, where you're sitting there, at the Krispy Kreme outside of Wisconsin, it's kind of, it's just not the same kind of vacation. Um, it makes you lose a little bit of your joy and your satisfaction in what you're doing. Hey, maybe you're hanging out there at the Krispy Kreme in Point Place, Wisconsin is your thing, A little That 70s Show reference there. And maybe that was a happy thing for you, but when you're sitting there and you're looking at somebody having, tea with the queen, you start making comparisons. And, I'm not saying that social media is something that has brought this, or this is something new. I'm not saying that it's come about because of social media. These kind of comparisons, especially in the gear market, have been around for a long time. Gear snobs have always been there. We had no thing even close to resembling a computer, much less the internet, when I was a kid. And there were just certain, I don't know. It's like a learned, an unlearned learn thing that, like, there's some guitars you're like, oh, no, Squires were that way. In the beginning, now of course, I suspect now, and we're talking about the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, when they first, mid 80s to the 90s, when they were first really coming out. I suspect a lot of the dealers had an incentive, since those were import guitars, to try to not sell them over the more expensive American-made models. That's always been my suspicion why that got a bad rap. Of course, the QC on them were bad, but not all of them. But they got that rap, and then the comparison started. And this was pre-internet. Squires suck, or they're not as good as. Epiphones, I suppose, pretty much the same thing in their own way. And sure enough, over time, we have seen these comparisons, particularly between Squire and Fender and Epiphone and Gibson, to start to shrink. Especially when you start getting into the more pricier Epiphone guitars. And the QC has stepped up. The quality, even sometimes you get a pair of, Burstbucker pickups more often than not these days. Unfortunately, you'll get the in-house design, but those are considered to be decent microphones. So, that gap of that comparison is getting smaller and smaller with those brands in people's minds these days. Started, I think, in the 2020s with the Inspired by Gibsons and with Squire with the CV line, the custom vibe line that I was talking about. It turned people's, it really, people got, especially the CV, the custom vibe lines. I have custom vibe Telecasters. People got the custom vibes and they said, oh my God. And as I said, you can see my review on it. I've had Fender Telecasters, and this Squire, I said to myself, is just as good as any of those. Changed the pickup in it, and that thing it's happening. Very impressed, and you don't need anything more. So that comparison squeeze down that distance, that wall that built up from the 80s through the 90s to current began to brick by brick. Just like the East Berlin Wall start to fall apart. So, that joy, however, that people lost over that period of time, making those comparisons when the truth of the matter is, yeah, the QC got better. The designs in some cases improved, but they were still basically the same guitars. I wish I have had all of that stuff when I started playing guitar back in the late 50s and 60s. If I had it, you would have never heard of Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, Tell him, Uncle Carlton. That's where I'm getting to. That's another thing, too. You have a wealth of things available to you now. You had to order, a lot of brothers I know had to order their stuff out of the Sears catalog. Or they had to pick it up from somebody where it's a used. My first acoustic guitar was a mess. I've told you guys that story. Didn't have the kind of options that you have now. And so, again, that wall, so what do? Well, they've stolen 20 or 30 years of your joy because, quite frankly, you'd be hard-pressed with Fender America to get a quality piece of maple like this anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong, with the Mexican-made Fender Strats, it's no longer rosewood anymore you're getting. Now you can sit there and say to yourself, well, Paul Ferrer or whatever they're using is just as good, but is it really? I mean, there's the reason rosewood was chosen, and it's actually one of the ones that was actually chosen, is because of the way that it feels. There's the feeling of it. A lot of those other ones, they may look the part, but when you put your fingers on it, it tells you a completely different story. So, this older neck this is a 20-year-old neck, by the way. It's exactly 20 years old, this neck. And it's superior, my point is it's superior to what you're finding today on the supposed higher end. This was one of the lower end ones. Cap was played over 6, you lost your kid. Yeah. Take that. Yeah, there was a lot of other things to worry about back then. But it's just what I'm saying is that neck is superior. It's one of the reasons I chose it. The Mexican-made Ventura series used Paul Ferrer in 2021, but I believe they're back to rosewood. Yeah, there was a period where they were using it. And so, this 20-year-old piece of wood from a Squire of back 20 years ago weren't supposed to be great, but gee, this neck seems pretty good to me. I'm about to use it for something. The electronics from the 2001 that I put in the body in there, there have been people who have been ranting about that particular year, the pickups, the 2001 Affinity pickups. They're saying those are great sounding ceramic pickups. So my point is, has it really changed that much, or are we just waking up to the BS? Comparisons to other things have stolen a lot of people's joy. Some guy woke up and like, oh man, I got this, all I got is a Squire, but I wish I had that Fender. I wish I had been a little bit taller. You guys know that one? Comparison is a thief to satisfaction. And now that people are not prone to make those kind of comparisons, if you played your amp over 6, you lost your gig. Yeah, I got you. I got you the first time. Yeah. Yeah, dig that. That's going on today. But let's not digress too much. But I think that one of the things that manufacturers are now doing, since they're, and they're not hiding anymore, they're like, hey, we knew these were okay all along. If you fell for that marketing, great. It was a limited edition 59, remember? How many of those did they come out with? So all the joy that was stolen over those years by individuals is a shame. And so be careful when you start making comparisons. Think about that. Uncle Carlton here was so kind to bring up the point, and it's a great point, that X amount of years ago, because you brought up a good point, Carlton, and I appreciate it, is that there was an era where we didn't have these kind of options. We're spoiled for options now. So spoiled to the point, as I bring up quite often, that there's an overproduction. There's enough Gibson Les Pauls for every man, woman, and child in North America to have 2. Okay? Dig that. Think about that. And I'm serious. If they were giving away tomorrow, there's here's your 2 Les Pauls. Every man, woman, and child could have one. So that's crazy. That's overproduction. Branding has a lot to answer for, Maddie says. Correct. Don Juan says, I was turned away from a gig when I was younger because I showed up with Squire. Look at them now. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That snobbery that existed. Now, there was nothing wrong with your Squire in terms of what it played and whatnot. That was their hang-ups. Whoever that guy, that's the band leader. That's their hang-ups. Their perception. Oh, we don't want to be seen with a guitar player with Squire. Well, if Eddie Van Halen showed up with a Squire, I bet you sure would have let him play with you that night. So much great equipment nowadays. We're in a great time. We're in the golden age. I say it quite often, guys. And Uncle Carl was bringing up that point. We're in the golden age of a lot of things. We're in a golden age where even if your amp at 6, it's pretty freaking loud because you got 15, 40s, 50 watt, 100 watt. You got options that you didn't have. Back then, you had 2 options, 100 watt, and that was it. That was it. And you had to that's why if you turned it past 5, it was loud because you were dealing with big watts. Now we've got these smaller, they had smaller amps too as well. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that we have a lot more options in terms of even that. And Lord knows with guitars we have even more. And don't even factor in pedals. Nowadays, you don't need an amp anymore. You can string certain pedals together in a certain way, and you can go ampless. Plug the pedal in with a set of headphones, and you can go to the moon with that. Didn't have that option. Not even 15 years ago. Really, you didn't have that option. The options are just escalating, getting more and more and more. So don't let comparison rob you of the joy, and that makes me mad. Actually, man, to hear that story. Now, if you turn up to 2, you're told to turn down because it's too loud. Yeah, because everybody's using modelers now, and the back of the house can control that level, and it doesn't make you happy if you're a guy that just has to feel that air pushing behind you and your ears bleeding. But it makes the sound guy happy, so there's that. But so much joy has been lost. That story about getting turned away with the Squire, that makes me mad. Because I told you the story. One of my first gigs, my friend John McKnight took me to this band that was playing this New Year's Eve party. I couldn't get up to 3 on a 40 watt. That's when, yeah, that my Laney, forget about it. And I've got the 1 watt attenuator. I still keep it at 4 or 5. That's as loud as I'll get. That's when I'm pushing it. The Fender Champ, forget about it. That thing is loud. It's a 40 watt. That thing is loud. But I showed up this gig, and I just had to play this lick. Played the lick, but for some reason, the guy just wasn't, the band leader wasn't feeling. He was like, no, we don't want to use him. But my friend John was like, no, man, you want to have this guy, Mike, he's cool. You want to use him, we use him. So we'll just bring him up on stage. So I got up to stage, and they had turned my amp upside down, meaning you ain't playing live. And I didn't blink. I didn't holler. I didn't say anything. I picked up my guitar. I strapped it on. I plugged it in, and I performed I mimicked like I was playing, but I made sure that I danced. I kept it every step. I played to the audience, and at the end, they were going for me. They weren't paying any attention to the guy who was the singer, the leader. So much so that I was not invited back. But he did admit that, hey, your friend, they really were digging him. So you can turn lemons into lemonade sometimes, but it'll still burn you when people do stuff like that. It's just being a dick is what it comes down to. But and to this day, I don't know why, because I was in time, I was playing the lick. I think maybe it had something, I do think it had something to do with my guitar or something. There's just something that he just wasn't feeling. And then he was, whatever. But don't let comparisons steal your joy is what I'm telling you out there. If you're enjoying the show, how about the same likes for my Hey Blues Fan 63, thank you. I see 9 likes and 18 people out there. We're doing the division out here, guys. Let's hit those likes. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Hit the like button, guys. I do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Yeah, don't do that because and you have to develop an eye for quality. This was one man's junk is another man's treasure sometimes. With a little bit of woodworking to work out these dents in the wood and to get it so you would never know it was there. You would never know that there was a dent in that wood. Staining it and curing that stain and finishing it and getting it back to where this is just fantastic now, ready to go for another 20 years. I don't think in terms of comparing this to a Fender neck per se. I look at it in terms of it's good enough. It's good on something. I'm good with this. I'm good. Don Juan, always. It's always about being professional and showing up no matter the equipment and circumstances. Yeah, the show must go on. If you're in show business, business is part of it. And sometimes, I was playing in Nagoya and I was doing backing music for a Michael Jackson impersonator. And this guy fresh off the plane, the next keyboard player was taking my place, came up, jumped on stage and started bouncing around and mimicking like he was playing on it and, getting in my way and really pissing me off. And I walked off the stage and sat down with the manager and looked at him, just sat there and turned to him and just looked at him. There's sometimes when you just have to walk off too, And that guy got his ass beat later on, literally. If the band are brand snobs, it's time to get a new band. Yeah, that's right. If those cats ain't dig, if they're listening with this and not with these, then that's not somebody that you need to be around. They're not doing you any good, and they're not somebody that's good for you too. this was another person's junk, but we've turned it in. Look at that's just beautiful rose. You can't get a piece of rosewood, and it's thick too. Look at the edge. That's not that little thin edge of rose, little thin slender piece of rosewood. That's a good slab of it. You know, they don't do that anymore. Even with the newer Squires, they won't give you that kind of thickness of rosewood on it. It's a beautiful piece. And so, I'm not making comparisons of this to a Fender. I'm like, hell, this is a good neck. And so I'm not losing any joy there. Matter of fact, there was a lot of joy in doing the restoration work. I found a great deal of satisfaction in that, actually. I really am digging Carlton. I had to be honest with you, I'm starting to get into these Strats. As I play Telecasters and then Les Pauls. And you yourself never liked it. But, I'm getting into it. I like this. I like these two that I put, but I put them together myself with the help of my luthier, and I'm digging that. I'm getting into just the building aspects of it. You kind of bond with things. Like I said, it takes it to another level because every nick, every corner, everything wrong. If something goes wrong with that guitar, I will know. I could trace it down and just feeling it out. And so no joy loss because I'm not comparing anything. I'm comparing it. The comparison is in my head to my perfection, not some marketing scheme that tells me that this is the next new shiny thing, and that's not good enough. I love the large headstock on that. Yeah, man, that's the thing that I dig. I dig these. A lot of people don't like that CBS headstock. The reasons, there was a smaller, prior to 65, these had a smaller headstock to it. After 65, when the CBS company bought Fender, they enlarged the headstock solely because of marketing. That is the only reason they made this larger headstock, is so that the Fender brand name would show up a lot bigger on TV. That is the reason they switched to the larger headstock. Just so happens that I'm a child of this generation headstock. I always liked it over the smaller one myself. So yeah, that's another thing that just made this, a choice for my parts caster. I really like that headstock design. I like it on the Telecasters. Some of the Telecasters have that headstock design to it. I really do like that. So, but it's not stealing any of my joy. So I thought that I would talk about that tonight. I thought that would be a good place to go this evening because we're moving into a season again. Last week we talked about Black Friday. Even the reverse headstocks look good to me too. Yeah, I like those. Same here as a child of that time. Yeah, we're children of that time, so that was my, that's kind of my thing. I like that headstock design. I like it on the Fender Teles, and I like it on the Fender Stratocasters, and I like it on the Jaguars. I really like it on the Jaguars. Keigo has, like, my guitar player in Japan has a 65 or 66 Mustang with the large headstock on it, and man, that's just a beautiful guitar, beautiful sounding too. But yeah, not making comparisons, guys. Just being happy with what you got. You got to be grateful for what you got, a man once wrote. Diamond in the back, sunroof top. I really think that we, going into this period of heavy bombardment of marketing, always need to keep the comparisons down to a minimum. We're more looking to fill the gaps of things that we need. And I told you about I wasn't going to invest in the tuner, but I went to a shop and it was $10. I said I'll take it, and I couldn't be happier with the tuner. I wasn't, going to spend. I wasn't gonna, and it's new too. That's even better. I was thinking it's going to be 20, 30, 50 euros, but no, 10 euros. And it works. Not worried about what the latest tuner is, because this one works. And I'm good. I've raised and repaired fairly deep dents in wood gun stocks using a damp cloth. Yep. And it's, yes, sir, that's correct. So what he's talking about there, there's another thing that you can do. So to fill this in, I use super glue. So you take super glue, you gotta sand it a bit, then clean it out. If there's any wood chips or anything, get it cleaned out. Then you fill it in with the super glue. It'll overflow a little bit, that's fine, because then you're going to take a fine razor and you're going to scrape that excess down, and then you're going to tape the sides of the razor too. You're not using the whole razor. You run some tape just for the area that you're scraping. Then you use some wet, dry sanding process, going from different grades of sandpaper to finish it. One of the other things is he was mentioning you do is steam it out. So you can take a wet cloth, put it on there, any kind of iron will do. So like a flat iron will do, curling iron will do, a soldering iron, if you cool it off first, is even better, will do. And what it'll do is that moisture will get into the wood and it'll start to raise it up, puff it out. With this kind of dent that I had, that really wasn't an option. This was the best way to go. But there is that to do. There's a couple of ways you can do it. And that's a groovy thing to know. Knowledge is power. Because if you know how to do a simple fix, like you won't, of course you should always not, don't drop your stuff. Don't drag your guitar from the back of your pickup. But accidents do happen, and if you say, okay, I did that, but I can fix that. I have the skill or knowledge. Or even if I don't, I'm going to look up on YouTube or somewhere, and somebody will have the answer of how to do that. And I'm going to fix it myself. Then, again, that's another thing that draws you closer to that instrument. Now, tough times do come along and you got to sell stuff. Lord knows I've been in situations where I had to make VAT payments or something like that, and I've had to sell something that I didn't want to. But I always have maintained that for the stuff that you do keep, the stuff that is precious to you, that it's really the stuff that, so of course that stuff you can let it go. There's always one or two pieces that are just your core ones that you don't want to let go if you really don't have to. And with those, the more that you bond on them, the more you work on them yourself and start to learn them, take it apart. Take it apart. Get a toolkit and take your guitar apart. You'd be surprised. And put it back together again. And you'd be surprised what you'll learn. You'll learn that guitar. You'll learn some of its hidden imperfections. But you'll bond with it. And when the marketing BS comes, Black Friday events, and the Christmas event coming here around the corner sales comes, you'll be prepared to fight it. You'll have like the holy water or the garlic to Dracula, You'll be able to hold up that cross, and the marketing Draculas will shy away, man, from that beam that you're shining of truth, that you're not going to BS me. You're not going to get me with this. Because I'm not making comparisons. I'm not feeling inferior what I got so that I need to get whatever you're telling me is superior. No, I'm listening with this now. And the price when you listen to this, you'll find out sometimes a very interesting thing, that price doesn't matter. And that was Josh's point about the Bad Monkey, by the way. That was his point all along. In case you missed it. And all the subsequent crap that came up from that fiasco, as I call it. So, just my thoughts this evening, my rants on this subject, because I guess you could call this F Black Friday Part 2. It's kind of a stealth kind of thing. A comparison to the Thief to Satisfaction is kind of a stealth way of saying the same thing in a roundabout way, but in a different way tonight. Tonight I'm talking about um, listening with your eyes as opposed to listening with your ears. If you're a musician, then for God's sake, I surely do hope that you're listening with your ears, not with your eyes. And I really do hope that, whatever you're a bedroom player, or if you're a serious gigging musician, either way, you know, by the time you get to be a serious gig musician, you by nature of it, you're kind of forced to really listen with your ears because your audience will let you know if they're digging the sound or not. After they dig the sound, then you can start worrying about the glitter pants and the tight shirts. Some people put that cart before the horse. Believe it or not, I've seen people more concerned about their wardrobe than their sound. But don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Don't do that. The comparisons are all up here in your head. That's where you're making the comparisons at. And only you will know that. There's no way that any marketing guru in the world can tell you what it is you're hearing inside your head. Or even just on a basic stylistic level. There's nobody can tell you that. That's why they put it out in 50,000 different colors, because they think that, somebody will dig this one, one of these 50. And if we get enough to like each color, then we've got something going here. But that's kind of my thing tonight, guys. That was my big main topic for the evening, obviously. So just bear that in mind. Don't be one of those guys who had his joy stolen for decades because everybody was crapping on his guitar that now they're telling him they're great. Guy or girl. Don't if you're young and you got that 20 years ahead of you, 30, 40 years ahead of you, don't spend that making comparisons. And realize that the guys like Uncle Carlton and a lot of me and a lot of guys that came before you, when we were growing up, we didn't have these kind of options. And so you kind of had to make what you had to do. And that really leads to a different kind of individual as well. Where are we at, guys? What time is it? Okay. Fantastic. I am just amazed by the growth of YouTube music-oriented channels that have started to come up recently. It's kind of funny to me, actually. I'm getting in my feed sometimes, because of certain subjects, new guys out there who are just starting out in this market, in this thing. And part of me says, well, if you've got something interesting and people really latch on to it, then you'll have success. But it is kind of a little bit late to the party. But what I am seeing is that with this new batch of guys that are starting channels, is that they've gotten back to roots. And the things that they're doing, the things that they're talking about are actually interesting to me. There's a lot of flashy channels out there that have good production values, and in some cases there's actually teams of people who are putting those together. It's not a one-man operation. On a lot of that stuff, a lot of those bigger channels, they feel more homey to me, and they're talking about used gear. They're talking about stuff that is not new. It's not the hottest, latest thing. Maybe it's 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years old, but it's over the course of 10 years. Hey, guess what? It's shown itself to be of some kind of quality. So I'm encouraged by that, actually. I feel good about that because that tells me that that tide has turned out there in the consumer market. People are really getting tired, and they're seeing these YouTubers who have this. There's a new launch of a new product, and all of a sudden everybody's reviewing it. Everybody's like, you know what? I'm not. Even if it is great, I'm not feeling it anymore because it's really starting to feel like a push. I think guys, in my age bracket, I can speak for myself. I look on YouTube for information, and if I even smell a little bit of hype, I don't watch it. The Alderton's channel, with Danish Pete and the guys that have Danish Pete's a great guitar player, but there's an underlying layer of queasiness to it for me personally, that I don't watch their reviews and stuff. KDH kind of got into them a little bit because it turns out that something that they said they were marketing, but turns out it was their product. There's a lot of things in that, and the production values and the set values and the sound and all that is fantastic, but sometimes that homie guy who's I saw this guy the other day. Yeah, so he had a rack behind him. It's just another one situation. He's got like, just crap. It looked like he's in his bed, unmade in the back, and whatever light he could get in from the window. But he was digging into a piece of equipment, and he was playing great. And he was reviewing it in such a way that he didn't have any production value at all. Had no lighting. He didn't have, the camera guy and the sound guy, like they have over at Allerton's. But I liked his review a whole lot better because it was in a home setting. It was something that I could appreciate. And so I'm encouraged that I'm seeing a lot more of those kind of YouTubers coming up. I hope we see a lot more because it's entertaining. You're like, oh my God, dude, this is out on YouTube, but why would you let somebody see your mess like that? It was bad, man. I know you guys do know. I'm sure you guys have seen a few. Hell, I mean, I may have made that mistake once. No, I don't think I've ever done that. Yeah, it's funny stuff, but I like that organicness of it. I like that hominess of it. So that's a good sign. That I always like to finish these shows out with something positive. And the positive thing that I'm seeing here on YouTube is that, these newer guys that are coming out, another reason is, things are tight. I saw a report in China that their exports are off 80%. Guy was at the ports in Shanghai, and he says all these containers are stacked, 3 high or whatever high they were. He says, you know what that means? They're all empty. He says, we're not shipping anything out. I personally so tired of the hype, and I prefer channels that talk about good old or used gear or new gear they brought themselves. Yeah, I don't, I got this little heat pedal out there from Mickey. I think that it's great. I wasn't looking for it. It just happened to be something that was given to me, and I reviewed it, and it just blew me away, and I wasn't looking for it. Yeah, the hype is always being pushed around the latest and greatest, and it's not something that was really pushed out there either. There wasn't a lot of hype around it, even though it was in Alderton's pedal. They pushed it a little bit, But then that died off. But then some cats, home cats, started reviewing it and getting into it. And I said, hey, I got one of those. Let me take a listen to that. And with that Strat, I think it works well with the Strat. I don't think it works well with humbuckers. I think it works great with the Strat. I was like, hey, that's going on my board. Wasn't looking for it. You know, a lot of normal guys reviewed it. I said, hey, I got one. And I liked the way they reviewed it. It wasn't the hype reviews. I had it, given to me during the hype reviews, and it sat here. It wasn't until the normal guys started playing, and I was like, hey, I got one of those. Let me go see how that sounds. Yeah. I found you based on your videos for the Epiphone LP59. I was looking for people's honest opinions on the guitar. At the time and to this day, I can still say that the Epiphone 59 is a fantastic guitar. What soured me on it was that limited edition moniker. Just call it the Epiphone 59. People would still have bought it. And they wouldn't have soured a lot of cats to it. But it's a great guitar. And yeah, it brought a lot of people here, and I appreciate it. I appreciate that guitar in itself. That I had a Gibson and I had that, and I was able to compare the two of those and give my honest opinion. With these, couldn't hear a really big difference. With these, yeah, there were some differences there, but I wasn't listening with these. I was listening with these. I ended up buying the Lazarus, which was a better version. I actually was pissed because it had the one-piece neck. And it was that guitar with just a little more oomph on it. So yeah, there was that. Again, another situation. I was like, well, why didn't you put the one-piece neck on the 59 if you could do it for the last, It's like, what are you guys doing? Now we're up to the $1,500, guitars out of them. So dig that. So let us not let ourselves get into the hype of things. Had a lot of great guitars come through here. I had that 73 Yamaha here last week. I showed you guys. The client bought that this week. He was very happy. So that's a good thing. A lot of cool stuff rolls through here, but I'm still happy with these parts casters now that I'm putting together. I'm happy with them. I'm not comparing. I'm just being frank with you guys. I'm so much more happier. So, something to chew on this week, folks. Something to think about. My light died out on me. So good timing. I am going to be doing a show this week unboxing that 73 SG. So you can actually see me open it up and you can get a little bit of better look at it. I wanted to make sure that the client got it and got his permission before I put it up. So he's giving me the okay. So you'll see the footage of me unboxing that guitar. Again, that's a true vintage guitar. And as much as I liked it and as cool as it was, I'm happy with what I've got. I'm good. Of course, sure, I'm in the unique position that a lot of that stuff flows through because of the nature of what I do as a business. But even so, there's never been one where I've said, gee, I wish I had this instead of what I had. It just made me appreciate what I had a little bit more because I could see those differences and how they weren't so great. Something to think about. All right, so look forward to that this week on my channel. I will be unboxing the 73. And if you haven't checked out last week's, I was talking about Temu. Wasn't a very popular video. I didn't get a lot of views on that one for some reason. I really think that you guys should take a look at that. If you are putting together a parts caster and you're looking for stuff, the reason I bring about China and the fact that their exports to the United States and Europe has dropped by 80% is the fact that a lot of the stuff that they're producing there is about to get a lot cheaper. And I think a website like Temu that brings all these small suppliers and all the stuff that they're not selling together in one warehouse and ship them out I think you're going to see a lot of deals on parts there, so it's worth looking into. Again, it was 119 listed, 65 with their regular discount. Then I had a coupon for $20 for 55. So yeah, 35 I paid for that body, and it's pretty nice. You guys will see it. Again, if you want to get a preview of it, go to the community page on my channel here, Upstairs to the Right Music channel. Look at the community channel, and you can take a look at that body, semi-assembled guitar that I'm putting together. But I think Temu is a place that you might want to check out, guys. Check it out. I think that for parts, and I have had no problems. I got my second order from them. I got another set of tuners in the body, and it came through like that. No problems. Check it out for your parts. Just a little tip to end this on. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this evening. Uncle Carlton, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and be a special guest tonight. I want to thank everybody else, the regular and the new comers to the show, for making it what it is. It's nothing without you. And without your support, without you coming every week and listening in, even afterwards in the replay, really means a lot to me. And I want to thank you so much. Until next week, if you guys will, by the way, Asanoki, Ants in the Pantry album, check it out on Bandcamp. Take a listen to it, guys. Buy a copy. Christmas season's coming up. It's a stocking stuffer. Ben, thanks, my good stuff. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Ben. And thank you guys for showing up tonight. You take care, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.